going well for people. Lots of people own homes. Lots of people had more than what they needed. Lots of people could take vacations. Lots of people were ready and planning for their retirement. But in 2008, when the recession hit, it was so horrible, it impacted many of American citizens in this country in such a way that then, when that happened, when layoffs by the thousands began to be given, when foreclosures began to happen, when people began to line up in the lines of unemployment, when people began to seek at the pantries in churches and in community centers for food so that they could feed their families, our country realized how good we had it. And so, with that in mind, I'd like to say a saying that we know very well in our country, and perhaps it is a universal saying that can be heard throughout the world. And the saying is this: we don't know what we have until it's gone. We don't know what we have until it's gone. Oftentimes we take so many blessings and so many things and so many people for granted in our lives that when we lose them, we realize it suddenly hits us and it's hard. We realize that what we had were blessings, but now we realize too late once they are gone. You don't know what you have until it's gone. With this in mind, and without a doubt, human beings since the times of the fall of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden lost something very precious, something so valuable. When Adam and Eve sinned and disobeyed God, they were expelled from paradise, from the Garden of Eden. And the longer they were away from that place, that Garden of Eden, that paradise, the harder it was for them to remember how good they had it when they were face to face with God, in relation, in communion, enjoying and worshiping our Creator. In the Garden of Eden, Eden, by the way, means delight. The Garden of Delight. What made this place a delight was that our original common father and mother, Adam and Eve, had the indescribable joy of receiving God's love, of being with God face to face. Imagine that. How many of us would like to see the face of God? How many of us would like to be in God's presence? I have heard testimony of people that have died and have been able to come back, medically confirmed to be dead, but then resurrected, brought back to life by means of cardiopulmonary resuscitation. These people have said, "Why did you bring me back? I was so happy in the presence of God. The place where I was, it was like something that I've never experienced before. It was so good. Why did you bring me back?" We hear that in testimonies of people that have passed on, but God has allowed them to return back to this world. No, we don't know what we have until it's gone. This is a powerful truth that Adam and Eve had to acknowledge and realize all of a sudden when, because of their disobedience, they found themselves with a profound pain in their chest and in their hearts of having lost something so valuable, so precious. God's presence, God's communion, being with God in the Garden of Eden. This blessing was truly the happiness that satisfied all of their longings and their needs, that filled them with joy, meaning in their life, peace and security. In communion with God, Adam and Eve enjoyed a happiness that is unimaginable for us as human beings in this world. But unfortunately, this was before the fall of man. Adam and Eve, before the fall, before being expelled from this place of delight, this paradise, Eden, did not know what it was to feel pain, did not know what infirmity of illnesses were, did not know what it felt to be cold or hungry or any other kind of thing that today afflicts human beings and causes us to be in need of God's help, that makes us unhappy, that steals and robs the peace from our hearts. They did not know any of those things when they were in direct relationship with God in the Garden of Eden. As Mennonites, we are very familiar with the concepts of the biblical peace, and we affirm that human beings cannot be happy and that this world cannot be a just and happy place until we as human beings have a commitment of peace in our lives. The lack of peace robs us of that true happiness. I'm one of those peculiar persons that believe strongly that true peace is not possible if we pretend to achieve it, to acquire it, to have it, to find it outside of God. I don't think that true peace is possible. There is a saying that we say, and we read it in the bumper stickers of many cars that says, "No Jesus, no peace. No Jesus, no peace." It is a saying that I believe is very true. We cannot fool ourselves. If we do not have Jesus in our lives, if we do not enjoy a relationship with our Creator God, it is not possible to really know what true peace is. Speaking of the true peace, our Lord Jesus Christ said, "My peace I leave you, my peace I give you, not as the world gives it, I give it." So that Jesus is the first one to make a contrast and establish the great difference between the peace that the world wants and the peace that the world can offer us, and the true everlasting peace that Jesus wants for us as believers. These are two different things. Don't confuse them. Not as the world gives it, I give it, said Jesus Christ. With these words, Jesus wants to let us know that the peace that the world says it can give us, the peace and the joy that we believe we can find outside of God, is not possible. Until we acknowledge His Son, Jesus Christ, as our only and sufficient Lord and Savior, then can man and woman, then can we young people, and yes, even children, then can we experience peace with God, our Creator. In the times of Jesus' earthly ministry, there was three concepts of peace that were understood in the world at the time. There was the concept of the Roman concept of peace known as the Pax Romana. This is a concept of peace based on a system of government so strong, a government so rigid, that it imposed order over society by ruling with an iron fist. This was the Roman concept of peace. Social order, peace for the Romans, meant it was really a deterrent. We will have order in society, we will have peace. Otherwise, the consequence, the pain, and the punitive consequences are too much, and they are handed down by the state. Then we had the Greeks. The Greeks had a concept of peace, which they understood to be something internal, something in us, an inner peace, a personal, individual peace that was acquired by the means of learning certain philosophy and acquiring certain wisdom. Therefore, for the Greeks, peace was something internal that you could only experience inside. And you could only experience that peace if you had the right wisdom. Therefore, human beings, according to the Greeks, were unhappy because they lacked wisdom. In other words, only the dumb people are unhappy, is what they were saying. But then there's another concept of peace that was known then and it is still with us today. And this concept of peace is the Hebrew concept known as shalom. If you receive my emails, you know that shalom is the word that I end all of my emails with as I read. Shalom. The Hebrew word for shalom goes beyond just a word that is pronounced. It is a word that transmits feeling, intention, and emotion. Shalom is more than a word that we pronounce. It is a complete and whole peace. Shalom is a feeling of satisfaction, of integrity, wholeness, well-being, and harmony. If we stop to meditate on the meaning of this word shalom, we realize that this is the word that we ascribe to what we want and what we call peace and happiness. Happiness. Shalom is a word that we associate and we equal to the happiness that we seek for ourselves. Where we are in harmony with our brothers and sisters, with our neighbors, we are in harmony with God, we are lacking nothing, we have all that we need in order to live a happy and fulfilled life. We are filled with joy. All of this together is shalom, what God offers. Shalom is that which human beings, starting with Adam and Eve, lost in the garden. But through Jesus, we're able to recover it. Jesus said of himself, I am the door. He is the door that can open up once again paradise, Eden. He is the door to the presence of God so that we can once again enjoy a sweet communion and relationship with our God the Father. Jesus said, I am the door. So that you can recover that which was lost, paradise. When a sinner gives his or her life to God, hands over total control of their life, this redeemed sinner is now able to enjoy a relationship with God once again and experience that shalom that God offers, that happiness and that true and genuine peace that all of us as human beings desire for ourselves, for our loved ones, for all those that we love so much and hold dear. In Psalm 37, verses 1 through 9, we find an existing factor, external factor, which was causing King David to be unhappy. He was allowing external factors to make him unhappy, to make him miserable. Remember from last Sunday sermon, happiness is not God's responsibility. God is not responsible for your happiness. You are. I am responsible for my happiness. God can give us a home. God can give us clothing. God can give us food. God can give us many things. And yet we can still find ourselves unhappy and miserable. Because happiness is for us to acquire. Happiness is for us to achieve, not God's responsibility. King David had realized that he was unhappy because of the apparent prosperity and success that he was noticing, that he was seeing in wicked people that were committing injustices. We're not talking about a simple, mere feeling of envy and jealousy that David was feeling towards a neighbor. No. King David did not understand why the unjust, why the unpious, why the wicked, why the corrupt people without scruples, who had become rich and prosperous by way of corruption, seemed so happy, seemed so satisfied, seemed to have it all together. David begins this psalm by saying, after realizing that this is false, that they are not really happy, that this is just a mere appearance that the world presents, he says, do not fret because of evil men, or be envious of those who do wrong, for like the grass they will soon wither, like green plants they will soon die away. Sometimes as believers we make the mistake of believing that the true joy and happiness and peace can be found in the world outside of God, in the things that society has to offer us, that this world has for us. Sometimes it crosses our minds as believers just for a moment, especially during times of trial or adversity, that things will be better for us if we just forget about church and about our relationship with Jesus, and if we just dedicate ourselves to working harder, to making more money, to accumulating lots of stuff, to secure for ourselves treasures in this world. We think that things will be better for us. But that is a mistake. That's precisely what the world wants us to believe. It is the worst kind of deception, lie that we can believe. But oftentimes, Christians will think that way, especially during trial and tribulation in their life. Last year, thanks to a man by the name of Edward Snowden, we realized, without a doubt, before we used to think, and there were some people with conspiracy theories about the government, about Big Brother watching over us, but now, last year, through Edward Snowden, we realized that this is in fact really true. We realized that privacy, as we thought we had in this country, is just an illusion. We never